Brian Schaefer vanished inside a bar with cameras covering every exit. But the strangest part of this case isn't the footage. It's the people who were with him that night. Because when investigators started asking questions, some of Brian's closest friends didn't want to answer. To understand the disappearance of Brian Schaefer, you have to understand the people around him that night. Two names come up again and again: Clint Florence, Brian's close friend and drinking buddy, and Meredith Reed, a friend who gave the two men a ride after the bars. These two were the last known people to see Brian alive. But what happened after Brian walked into the ugly tuna saloon is where things get complicated. Clint and Brian had been bar hopping all night. They hit multiple spots before ending up at the ugly tuna around 1:55 a.m. inside the bar. Brian was seen on camera talking to two women. Clint waited nearby. Then, at some point, the two friends got separated. Clint left the bar without Brian, and here's where the red flags start piling up. Clint refused a polygraph test. His lawyer told him not to cooperate further with police. He stopped talking to investigators entirely. Even Brian's father publicly begged Clint to come forward with anything he knew. Clint never responded. Now, refusing a polygraph doesn't automatically mean guilt. Polygraphs are notoriously unreliable. Lawyers often advise against them. But in a case where a man has vanished into thin air, complete silence becomes deeply suspicious. Meredith Reed, on the other hand, wasn't with Brian and Clint for most of the night. She met up with them later and offered them a ride home. After the bar, she drove Clint home. She tried calling Brian the next day, but he didn't answer. Meredith cooperated fully with police. She even passed a polygraph test. She is one of the few people in this case who did everything investigators asked. But her involvement raises a critical question. If Brian had planned to leave on his own that night, why didn't he call Meredith for a ride? She was literally the designated driver. Let's go back to that polygraph. Clint's refusal became one of the biggest talking points in the entire case. Investigators said publicly they believed he knew more than he was saying. Brian's father said the same thing, but Clint's attorney insisted his client had nothing to hide. He just didn't trust the polygraph process. Still, Clint was the last person to see Brian inside the bar. He was the one who left without him. He was the one who stopped cooperating. And that silence has echoed for nearly 2 decades, fueling endless speculation. This leads us to the 3 major theories involving the people closest to Brian that night. Theory 1 is that Clint knows more than he said. This is the most popular theory online. People point to his refusal to take a polygraph, his refusal to talk to police, his refusal to talk to Brian's family, and his refusal to talk to private investigators or the media. Clint has stayed completely silent for 19 years. Some believe he saw Brian leave through a camera blind spot. Others think he knows why Brian disappeared. A few even believe he was somehow involved. There is zero physical evidence supporting his involvement, but the silence speaks volumes to many. Theory 2 is that Brian left on his own, staging his own disappearance. But this theory has major problems. He left his car behind, parked near the bar. He left his wallet, his keys, his passport, and all his future vacation plans with his girlfriend. And most importantly, no one, not Clint, not Meredith, not the bouncers ever, saw him leave. Theory 3 suggests that something happened to Brian inside the bar. This theory proposes he never actually left the ugly tuna alive. Supporters point to the bar's confusing layout, an active construction area on the second floor, potential blind spots in the security cameras, and the possibility of an accident or an altercation that was covered up. But if something did happen inside the bar, someone would have to know. And that brings us right back to the people who were there with him. Here's the uncomfortable reality of this case. The last people to see Brian Schaefer alive were his friends. One cooperated fully, the other shut down completely. And in a case with no body, no evidence, and no confirmed sightings since that night, silence becomes its own kind of clue. But the strangest part of this case wasn't the people. It was Brian's phone. Because weeks after he vanished, someone called his girlfriend from Brian's number, and the phone actually rang. We'll explore that mystery in the next episode. Thanks for watching.